What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Shep's Garage video. Today we're back with another Mark 8 GTI video, and today I'm going to tell you guys all the modifications that I regret doing to my Mark 8 GTI. I'm going to explain why I regret doing them and what should I have done instead. Hopefully this video is helpful for anyone who is new to modifying their Mark 8 GTI and Golf R. So without further ado, let's get straight into this video. But first, of course, if you're new to the channel and this is the first time seeing my face on your screen, consider subscribing down below for more awesome Mark 8 GTI content and other car content on this channel. I'm trying to become a full-time YouTuber and I cannot do without your guys' support. Now, before I get into this video, I just want to preface one thing, is that I am not ungrateful for anything that I'm talking about in this video. You know, mistakes happen, and I would consider these modifications that I bought mistakes in a way, where I should have bought something else rather what I got instead. Now, the great thing about modifying a car the first time is I see it as a big giant learning experience, kind of like going to school almost, where, like, you know, you're trying out modifying a car for the first time and you now know that you know, maybe you won't do a certain mod again, and that will help you for your next car. So like this entire time I've been modifying this car over the past 3 years I've owned this car, you know, almost 4 now actually, you know, I've been learning everything about modifications and what they do, and what I will and won't do again on my next car. So it's a big learning experience for me, and obviously I got this car when I was 16. This was my first car, so obviously when I was 16, you know, I was just learning stuff about, you know, I knew a lot about cars, but I didn't really know about the modification world about cars, and if you know cars, that's a whole different world. So that's just the preface there, so hopefully this video will help you guys out. So without further ado, let's get started with the first thing I regret buying. Let's start off with the first thing that I regret buying, and that is my New Speed cold air intake with the turbo muffler delete. So I got this was my probably very early on into owning this car, and I went with the New Speed one because I don't know why, actually. I thought it looked cool, but it was also because the filter, at least when I bought it, was red along with this part, which was red. I thought that would look really cool along with all the red, like, accents on this car. Almost 4 years later, this is what it looks like, and the red has basically disappeared, and now it's just a filter. Same thing with this little filter right down there. So not only is the color discolored, but also it has one major design flaw. For whatever reason, the bottom of this intake is super sharp and the corners are super sharp. I don't know if you guys can see this. Hopefully the camera can focus on this. Yeah, there you go. So this, every time this moves, obviously, like when you rev the car, right? Because, you know, it's all the induction noise and all the air is going through here. This thing moves. And this is how it should be. Like, it's fastened down with these, like, push bracket thing, whatever they're called, thingies, I don't know what they're called, but it's fastened down, so it's not bolted in apart from the turbo muffler delete. But as you can see, the sharp edge of the were tearing my battery positive cable, my battery positive terminal cable that goes to the battery. It has been ripping the thing apart, as you can see. Now, I didn't realize this until 2 years later after I got the intake installed, and I did this myself, so I know I did it correctly because I had a friend who was a mechanic check my work, and obviously it was done correctly, which is awesome. So I ended up having to zip tie the like battery terminal cable, positive cable, I don't know what this is called, comment down below if you can help me out, the battery terminal like cable to the, I think this is part of like the frame or something, or this bar right here. So I ended up fastening this down, so now it doesn't rub. But yeah, big design flaw with this intake, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but thankfully it did not affect anything electrical with this car. I also learned that open air intakes like this are, in a way, worse than the closed box intakes that go directly to your intercooler, which is what I should have done, but I didn't do because I didn't understand the difference between an open air intake and a closed box intake. So that's what I should have done, but I now know the differences between them, which I'll explain to you guys now if you really care. The open one, while you can see it, it makes more noise, while the closed box ones don't make as much induction noise, but you make way more power with the closed ones that go directly to your intercooler. That's what I should have done, but I didn't do, so that's a little unfortunate. But this intake is still a good intake, apart from this design flaw, which, you know, I got this intake right when it came out, so maybe Newspeed did solve this. So I know Newspeed's a great company. They make a lot of good stuff for this car, including the hood strut, for example. But, you know, this is kind of an issue, in my opinion, that if they haven't addressed, they need to address. So there's that. So in a way, I do wish I did go with a closed box intake rather than the open box, but you know, they both have their pros and cons. I just prefer, you know, I do prefer the closed box intake because it's just higher quality in my opinion, and you get more power out of it, which is sort of what I was trying to go for. But I guess in return, with this purchase, I get more induction noise, which, you know, I can't really complain about that. I really do like the noises that this intake makes when you accelerate, then let off the gas, it goes and whoosh and stoosh noises. So yeah, I guess that's pretty cool. I guess while we have the hood open, let's talk about the next thing that I regret doing, and that is actually back here, and that is my exhaust. Let's fast forward the clock all the way back to October of 2021, or end of October, early November 2021, when I got my Mark A GTI. This car was the first one in my state, to be in fact. This car got delivered early to my local Volkswagen dealership, and they unintentionally got it early, and then when I found out that it came early, I went and bought it, obviously, which is pretty cool. You know, I got a ton of reactions when I first was driving this car around after I got my license in January 2022. But I guess as a car enthusiast, the downside to getting a newer generation car early is that modifications for it don't exist at all. When I bought this car, an exhaust or an intake or even suspension didn't exist at all, because all these tuning companies like ECS and BMP Tuning and Newspeed and Racing Line, they have to get cars to develop these modifications on, and because I got one super early, I had to wait for modifications to come. So you may be asking, Shep, what does this have to do with an exhaust? I established the first thing I wanted to do to this car was an exhaust, because I just hated the stock exhaust sound on this car. It was too quiet. I wanted it louder, and I just think that, you know, as a GTI, like, I think these cars do sound pretty good for what they are. I want a good sounding exhaust. So after months of waiting, ECS announced that they came out with new exhausts, valved and non-valved. Non-valved meaning it's just an exhaust, but valved meaning that you have a remote on like your keys, and you can control the exhaust from your keys, the loudness and the quietness of it. And I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Once again, I was 16 years old and I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't know that this exhaust would be loud or not. So I thought, hey, I'll spend the extra money to get the valved exhaust just in case it's super loud, I don't wake my neighbors, and then the cold start is super loud, I don't wake my neighbors, and just trying to be considerate because I don't want to be that guy in my neighborhood. I ordered this exhaust to a shop so the shop can take delivery of it and I don't have to lug a giant exhaust in my trunk. Long story short, ECS is not known for their customer service or their delivery times or their products, I guess, in general. And because of that, this exhaust took forever to come. Like literally forever to come. They sent the non-valved version to my shop 2 times before they finally sent the right exhaust. So the shop finally called me and said, hey, come on in, you know, you will get the exhaust installed. However, once again, I was 16. I had no idea what a valved exhaust entailed, and it turns out there was a ton of aftermarket wiring they had to do into this car, which I will never, ever, ever, ever do again. They had to tap into the fuse box and the battery, and long story short, I made a video on it a long time ago, but the shop actually wired the valve directly to my battery. Long story short, this caused a battery drain and a whole month of my life completely wasted trying to get this car fixed. But in the end, I had to get a brand new battery and a brand new valve controller to make this exhaust work. Even worse, this wiring in this engine is literally terrible. Now, I'm not gonna blame ECS on this. This is partially my fault because I had zero clue a valved exhaust actually required this much wiring and tapping into the fuse box of this car. But you can see all of this is aftermarket wiring. All of this down here, let's see if we can get a focus on this. There we go. All of that is aftermarket. All this is the valve controller they had to install. All of this is aftermarket wiring. This is literally like all entailed to the exhaust, and it goes all under the car too. Let's see if I can get down on the ground and show you guys this. Yeah, all under these panels is the exhaust, and then that's the valved exhaust, you know, right there, or there, somewhere there. I will never, ever, ever, ever do a valved exhaust to a car ever again, unless it's done right, like Valvetronics exhaust. I've seen their work. It looks amazing. I've seen their exhaust. My friend has it on his G80, and it's awesome, and it's well done. That's how you do a valved exhaust. This, I will never, ever, ever do again. I will never do a not Valvetronic exhaust, basically. I'm not sponsored by them either. That's just me seeing their exhaust in person. I finally got this exhaust installed, and to be even worse, the loudness of it isn't up into around the 3,000 to 5,000 RPM range. So when you start this car, it isn't actually that loud, actually. That's because the exhaust, while it doesn't really change the loudness, it more changes the tone of the exhaust, and the downpipe is what changes the loudness of it. So basically, the entire time I drive this car, I drive with the valves open, which means every time I start this car, I have to open the valves if I want the nicest sounding like part of this exhaust. Otherwise, with the valves closed, it kind of just sounds like a vacuum cleaner. So my conclusion to this exhaust is that I am never doing a valved exhaust ever again. It was a total waste of time and money, and even still to this day, I have problems with the valve. Sometimes it doesn't open. Sometimes when it's too cold, it's frozen shut and doesn't open. I have to get exhaust fumes through the exhaust for it to open. It won't open right on startup, so that's a little annoying. So I am never going back to that shop ever again as well, and I'm not going to mention their name because, you know, I don't want to get a ton of hate from them. You know, they still did fix the car in a way. Now, I could get a brand new exhaust and fix this problem. However, this car's already so heavily altered with all this aftermarket wiring. Volkswagen dealers don't even want to come near me when they see all this crap. So unfortunately, I think I'm just going to leave it in. If it does start causing a ton of electrical problems in the future, once again, like it did the first time, I will end up removing it and having to pay that money to get a brand new exhaust installed in this car. So yeah, once again, big mistake, but I definitely have learned from this mistake, and now I know not to do aftermarket valved exhaust unless it's a Valvetronic exhaust. And that's why this exhaust was only $1,500 and not like $5,000, that Valvetronic exhaust that they charge for them. The final thing that I regret doing to this car, which I actually already fixed on this car, which I already made another video about as well, and that is the suspension. Now, I had originally H&R lowering springs on my Mark 8 GTI, and they were only like $250, I think, and they were great for about a year, until after a year the struts started going out and the ride just became like crap. While they sat very nice, I learned that I bought just springs and not the full suspension, and the downside to that is the Volkswagen struts aren't made for lowered suspension, they're made for Volkswagen springs. So they wore out very quickly within that year. So the ride was so bad, I had to change it because it just made me not want to drive this car. So all in with the install of those H&R springs was around $1,000, so I had to find out another solution to this, and that solution was coilovers. I did get a set of KW V2 coilovers on this car, which solved that issue completely, and that only it makes sense because coilovers have a spring and a strut built in, so I basically completely replaced the suspension on this car, and well, now it sits even better than before, and they are adjustable. So if I don't like this height in the future, I can always change it. But I absolutely love the setup on this car. Like, still to this day, I nailed like the fitment on this car. Like, I think like usually most people have to spend tons of money in wheels and spacers to nail their fitment, but honestly, I nailed it like first try. Like, it literally looks so good. It's so flush too. I love the setup too with the Audi wheels as well. So literally looks so good. There's the front fitment, literally exactly how I wanted it to. So yeah, this is like the lowest setting of them, and I have had no complaints ever since then. I have had no complaints when it comes to these coilovers. Best purchase ever made. Yes, they were very expensive. They're like close to $3,000, but I mean, let me tell you, when it comes to a lowered car, these ride like the stock suspension. Smooth as butter, literally super perfect. I've had zero complaints with these, and I absolutely love the way it sits now. And now I know these will last, and they won't have the problem the H&R springs had, which was that they wore out very fast. So yeah. Other than that, I absolutely love everything else I've done with this car. I love the wheels, I love the color, I love the Golf R spoiler. Everything else has been great. I absolutely love everything else, but those were just some of the things that I regret doing to this car. Even though I regretted doing them, I still do love this car for what it is. It's amazing. I literally do love it, but hopefully this video will help you guys figure out how you guys can avoid these mistakes when you're modifying your Mark 8 GTI and R. And let me know, comment down below if you regretted buying any modifications that you done to your Mark 8 GTI or Golf R. So comment down below about that, and that is this video done. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.